right? Surgeons of Edinburgh. So point I'm trying to make over here is Karna is able to predict those eclipses, right? So that those eclipses are occurring just before the war. They are not occurring like, because otherwise, as they have pointed out very clearly, there are eclipses occurring every year. And there are eclipse seasons occurring umpteen numbers. Umpteen. I mean, if you just try to date the war just with eclipses, it is going to be, it is actually going to be extremely difficult. You have to use like, all this other data which is there in the text. And there's so much other data. There's Magha Masa, and there is the Shukla Ashtami, and there is the separation with just a few days of winter solstice for Bhishma Moksha and so on and so forth. So this is one part. Okay. Second part of it is we are also talking about 3 other eclipses which are occurring. So we are talking about the 36 years later, there are 3 more eclipses. October 20th of 3031 BC, November 5th, annular solar eclipse, and the November 19th, lunar Aparvani eclipse. Now, what about the visibility of these eclipses before the war timeline for 3067 BC? So September 29, 3067 BCE, lunar Aparvani eclipse, definitely visible. Why we are saying visible? Some people are saying they are not visible. But that is not true. Why? Because they are pointing out on the basis of magnitude of the eclipse, right? Magnitude of the eclipse they are saying is calculated at 0.16, 0.20, whatever it is. But the Chinese astronomers in 493 CE, Stephenson and Fatuhi, you can check the reference, it is in Harvard University publication, 1993-94. Stephenson and Fatuhi have already pointed out that the Chinese astronomers observed an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, magnitude was only 0.15 according to today's calculations. It means it is unobservable according to today's calculations, but they have observed it, recorded it, and it was there, right? So all that business about visibility of eclipses, lunar eclipses I'm talking about over here, first of all, that is all gone. First thing, okay? So the September 29th and the October 20th, 3067 BCE, 2 eclipses, 100% visible. Now what about the October 14th, 3067 BCE solar eclipse? Now some people say, well, that is also not observable, right? Now I will point out over here, there is one thing called as delta T. Because visibility calculations need accurate values of delta T, which is what is delta T, just for everybody over here, is the difference between terrestrial time and the universal time. And basically, if you extrapolate to BC, that to 3000 BC, that brings errors in delta T itself. So that extrapolation value of delta T in software ranges from 18 hours to 27 hours. Which is uncertainty is about 9 hours in delta T calculation. I have got the values in my book. I mean, whoever wants, we can give you a copy. So an eclipse has taken place is sure, but when an eclipse, solar eclipse has occurred for only 7 minutes in any one location, but the uncertainty in delta T is several hours, the location or visibility becomes a bit of an issue. So again, if you are only going to date Mahabharata according to eclipses, I mean that is going to be a really, how can we put it? It is going to be a very, very difficult exercise. You have to have a lot of other things. Within the text itself, there are so many other things which we have given, right? And what we are going to show is that all those things point to a 3K BC date. Found a table, book of tables of houses and tables of planetary positions in Siam and another couple of places, I can't remember. That used to be one of my...
No. They count on the Tivellor table. Tivellor tables, just a moment here. Tivellor is a place halfway between Chennai, Madras and Tirupati. Tivellor tables is the one that all of them had used there. Incidentally, my mother's father is from Tivellor, and genealogically we belong to that family. So till about 100 years back, we are from the Tivellor tables family, and even now the main temple also is conducted by us in memory of that calendrical system. The temple, the Brahmos and the temple still be conducted. So there is a lineage connect also to that Tivellor temple, so what is being mentioned here.
And it cannot be back calculated. Yeah. It is impossible to back calculate, which means that there is somebody on earth recording the observations.
No, this is actually our historians and those, especially they think that there is an inconsistency in the text, so text can't be taken as a primary evidence to absolute chronology.
This is one
So
point.
that's why we have to some way to convince them why this is.
I can prove that some of the inconsistencies are also not inconsistencies, that I can prove it. If you give me time later.
No, this is in support
Yeah,
of
no,
what you
quickly
said in
let's
the
move to
morning.
the planetary position. We will now only restrict to the only translations and the astronomical observations. Please go. Presentation share करना.
Basically, this is also in support of the point you made in the morning, how archaeoastronomy has to be made into a separate discipline for also arriving at history. Like
Excellent point. I
archaeology.
think, see, this conference, what are
Only
the
that Indian Sanskrit, especially
Only-
Vedic, post-Vedic, Ramayana, Mahabharata and various other, they have actually
Astronomical observations
text
that can
written
be-
during those times. It's not somebody later documented, we never knew how to write it. So these things.
Only the itihasa.
Okay, now let's quickly go through. This is the first stage, the Mars. It is mentioned, there is another Kritva Changarako Vakram Jeshthayam Madhusudana Anuradham Prapyate Maitram Samshamayam Niva. And second is Vakranu Vakram Kritva Shravane Pavaka Prabhava Brahmarashim Samavritya Rohitango Vyavasthita. एक और श्लोक है, जनरली people say Chitra Swatyantare Parusho Graha. Some people try to translate Parusho as a Mangala. Parusho is Rahu, what Nilakantha has translated. So naturally, no, out of 5 planets, nobody gives this kinds of either Lohitanga, Angaraka, Mangala. These may be the names. But Parusho Graha, probably only Rahu, not. That's why I eliminated that one. And in the Nilakantha's translation, because some may say that Vakranu Vakram Kritva Shravane. Shravane is the retrograde. Somebody may say Angarako Vakra Jeshtayam. So what actually the translation is? Jeshtham Aprapya Yadi Bhaumo. Bhauma Bhumiputra Mangala. So Jeshtham Aprapya Yadi Bhaumo Vakri Bhave Tarhi Jeshthasya Rajya Yopyamitra Bhutas Te Sarve Nashyeyu. तो ये कहा जा रहा है कि ज्येष्ठा तक पहुंचने से पहले ही अंगारक जो है, मंगल जो है, रिट्रोग्रेड मोशन में था. वो कंप्लीट करके देन महाभारत में कुरुक्षेत्र वार स्टार्ट होने से ऑलमोस्ट जब स्टार्ट हो रहा था, तब मंगल ग्रह जो है वो श्रवण नक्षत्र में उपस्थित है. ये इसका अनुवाद है. तो जो भी महाभारत युद्ध करेगा उनको ये प्रूव करना पड़ेगा कि ज्येष्ठा से आने से पहले ही अंगारक जो है रिट्रोग्रेड मोशन कंप्लीट करके फिर अनुराधा तो एक उसका एक अलग था, वो मैं बाद में बताऊंगा. इसका मेन जो एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल ऑब्जर्वेशन है ये रिट्रोग्रेड मोशन, बिकॉज मार्स का आई थिंक एनुअली वंस होता है.
No.
Yeah, once in 2 years.
So once in 2 years roughly.
Once in 2 years.
Once in 2 years roughly. It is called Vakra because it is crooked. It is said to be crooked basically. That it's a slowing down of the motion when with respect to the Earth. See, the thing is like this. That particular thing, Kritva Changarako Vakram Jesthayam Madhusudana Anuradham Prarthete. Anuradham. Basically, it is mentioning the other nakshatra also over there. It is saying that it is going towards that Anuradha Vishakha. Basically, you can say if it is before Jeshta, then which other nakshatra it is going to be? It is mentioning Anuradha over there. Now, this is a Jyotish. All these are Jyotish observations. Vyasa is not mentioning it. Oh, I am an astronomer. Wow, I am looking at it. He is saying this is signaling doom. Why is that so important? Why is that so important, Which is the last time it has done? This thing, when it has occurred last time? 2001. When the Nepal tragedy has occurred, when that person has assassinated his whole royal family. That is that motion. That is that motion. And we can prove that motion occurred in 3067 BC. And okay, that's one thing. The second thing is it cannot occur at the time when it is mentioned in the text. It is mentioned in the text where? It is mentioned in the text at the time when Karna Krishna Samvad. This is basically an observation of Udyoga Parva of Karna, right?
Before war.
Right, before war.
Before war.
Yeah, but it
You
cannot
are right.
occur. It
You are
cannot
right.
occur at that point.
Just to tell that this retrograde motion is not cyclical.
No, it is not.
It's not. you cannot say that every 2 years it will be,
No,
because
this
with
is-
nakshatra
this is
reference,
once
that
in-
gives once in a hundreds and probably more than hundreds of years it may repeat, but it may not repeat at the same level.
My
Rarity is high. The key point is rarity is high to help us to zero it better.
So I request others, anyone, if
Yes,
you
I
help
want
with the
to-
translation, what we are actually doing, किसी को अगर इसमें आपत्ति
मुझे
हो,
ना observation नहीं, a very layman, absolutely ignorant about everything. You mentioned something about the Nepal issue and all. My basic understanding of science is that the great nakshatras, of course, they are moving, but they never come to the exact position on the same, when they come back to the same configuration. There's always a difference of some degree or the other.
Yes,
Is that right?
a little bit.
Yes.
My-
Because they cannot repeat completely the same.
No, that is not completely necessary. That is not completely necessary. But the anyway, the point one point I want to make. This thing that Kripa Changarako Vakram Jesthaya Madhusudana is made at Krishna Karna Sampada. Krishna and Karna at that time he says Saptamacha Abhidivasa Tamavasya Bhavishyati Sangrame Yujyate Tasmat Tamuhu Shakra Devatam. So if the sun and moon are coming towards the Amavasya, so it is 7 days away basically from that Jeshtha nakshatra, then the question of Mars being Vakri at the same time does not arise. It does not arise.
Manish जी, थोड़ा सा इनका भी ना आर्कियोलॉजी स्पेस है, उनको अभी एस्ट्रोलॉजी पे उतना नहीं है, तो उनको थोड़ा
Astronomy, बताओ, हाँ।
नहीं एस्ट्रोनॉमी मतलब
Retrograde, हाँ, I have to explain.
नॉट वो भी प्रॉब्लम है, तो उसके अनुसार से जो एस्ट्रोनॉमी है उन्हीं में इनको पिन पॉइंट कर
नहीं but astronomy बता रहा हूँ.
देयर आर एस्ट्रोलॉजिकल अजम्पशन से ऑब्जर्वेशन के पीछे रहते हैं.
Whatever it is, but the astronomy behind it only I'm talking. The point, the problem is over here that a planet can only be retrograde approximately 140 odd degrees away from the sun. So if you are saying that the sun is already approaching Jeshtha, and if you are saying that Mars was at Jeshtha, you see, Kritva Changarako, you see, he's saying, I saw, basically. So that means he has already seen that. So that is not a thing which has happened right then. Same thing with the lunar eclipse. I saw the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse is about to occur. That is a Kritva, so that has occurred before. So if it has occurred before in the past, that is all we need Mars. So my point is, we need Mars to be retrograde in the year of the war, ideally. It has to be before that Jeshtha Amavasya, obviously. It cannot be afterwards in the later part of the year. And also it has to be near that Anuradha Jeshtha. There is another verse, Bhavat Changarko Vakra, Shravane Cha Brahaspati, which is an astronomy-based impossibility. Because when you have Bhavat Sangarko Vakra, meaning Angaraka is in Vakragati at Magha, then you mean that the sun is on the opposite side of the zodiac because it has to be 140 degrees away. And when you have the other part of the word, Shravane Cha Brahaspati, so Brahaspati is also in Vakragati, then if Brahaspati is in Vakragati at Shravana, then the sun is at the opposite side of the zodiac in the same verse. So it is in the two opposite parts of the zodiac in the same verse, which means you have to search for another explanation.
2 different times.
It cannot be, it is mentioned as simultaneously in that single verse.
Both the things are not simultaneous.
No, I am saying
Yeah.
that this is one verse, this is in Udyoga Parva, that is coming in Vishwa Parva.
Yeah.
In translation, what we are doing is correct, or anyone has a definition?
ट्रांसलेशन संस्कृत स्कॉलर्स बताइए ट्रांसलेशन ठीक है इसका
There is a Parusha, है ना? चित्रा स्वात्यंतरे
Parusha can be translated as
क्रूर ग्रह है वो, मंगल भी क्रूर ग्रह है, शनि भी क्रूर ग्रह है, वो तो क्रूर ग्रह है।
No, it is,
Parusha is Neelkanta's translation is Rahu or something.
Neelakantha is saying Rahu. No problem. We will take
क्रूर ग्रह है, राहु भी
Parusha
क्रूर
means it is
ग्रह है, राहु क्रूर ग्रह है तो।
Shani.
Especially, you know, this Mars is also very Krura Graha. The Saturn also, Shanishkara also. But I am not. I want to even tradition also. No? Neelakantha. It may be his personal opinion. Like we have also there. Like there that time also somebody has his own translation. But Parusha. Okay. Better mean no, nothing is better because We will take it. We will take that also.
One point before we move on, I agree on the first one, exactly what that contra has already happened, Jeshta Anuradha, that's fine. The other part is the next one, and if you read that, Brahma Rashi, Samavritya, now that is present. Now that part is also important because when that conversation is happening,
When war was starting, maybe 1 day plus minus, you have to prove that the Mangala Graha is now in Shravana.
yes, exactly.
And Shravana's Rashi is Brahma Rashi.
Right,
Most
right.
probably Makara Rashi
Yes.
or
But
the
it's
Cyrus
that is also we have to
We
read.
was in the same year. So it
No, no, it's
cannot
not.
have occurred in different times.
No, no, it's not in Vakra, Brahma Rashi and Shravana. It has already done, it's already done Vakra, then Mars has moved on, and by the time of the war, when that conversation is happening in present, the Mars is at Brahma Rashi.
But it doesn't mention Mars specifically by name. Lohitango, see, Suryaputra is Saturn that way. Do you see what I'm trying to say? See, there are a lot of verses like that where Mars is not referred to as Angaraka specifically by name. Lohitango, like that there is another verse, Suryaputra for Saturn, and people have taken those verses as this is Saturn or that is Mars. I have taken that as ambiguous. It will, if you want to reach any conclusion, otherwise then Mars can be in 4 different positions at the same time.
No, I mean, it's quite possible. You can, the Mars, the velocity at which it's moving, it can finish the retrogradation and it can move and reach Shravana. And in the year that I am trying to prove it, it does happen, that it ends up in Brahma Rashi. And that's what I think we need Sanskrit scholars also to say whether Lohitango is Mars or if it's
संस्कृत वाले कुछ
Brahma.
पता है? डॉक्टर साहब को संस्कृत आपने संस्कृत
Lohitango doesn't mean, Lohitango can be a comet because according to why not? Lohitango can be a comet as well.
Translation only है Mars.
नहीं आप कर रहे हैं मंगला, बट वो सूर्यपुत्र भी मंगल है ना फिर तो।
Okay.
नहीं नहीं सूर्यपुत्र कहाँ मंगल होगा सूर्यपुत्र शनि होगा
शनि
शनि है
हाँ,
और
नहीं।
भूमिपुत्र